老杜再次声明
I reiterate that I will make this series with the utmost seriousness and responsibility,
但我会对一些数据
but I will slightly adjust some data to protect the
调整和
source.
处理，以便保护我们的信息源头。但是，我做处理以后
However,
的
the
数据
direction will not be wrong and the authenticity is 100%.
是100%真实的。
A former Chinese official Du Wen disclosed on June 11th of this year that he obtained an internal economic briefing compiled by the General Office of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, signed by Politburo Standing Committee member Cai Qi and submitted to Xi Jinping. The report shows that China's employment situation has fallen into a severe crisis, with youth unemployment exceeding 40% in some areas. What does this mean? If the report disclosed by Du Wen is true, it would mean that China is experiencing its most severe economic crisis since the reform and opening up, surpassing even the severity of the 1997 Asian financial crisis. In this video, we'll analyze the current cancerous symptoms of the Chinese economy and the awakening of Chinese youth. In a world where almost everyone owns a mobile phone and the government even encourages self-media as a career path, Chinese social media is filled with the cries and lamentations of young people.
最近我离开北京了。
I recently left Beijing. Actually, I'm a little sad. Maybe it's because I feel like I failed as a Beijing drifter, or maybe it's because this place holds so many memories for me. I came here after graduating in 2022, working, earning money, exercising, and living here. Suddenly, I'm almost 30, having gone from being a 20-something. Actually, I didn't want to leave Beijing, but because my living conditions were quite poor, the rental place was demolished. That was probably the last straw. So now I've moved to Hebei, which is very close to Beijing.
我被裁员了，31岁。
I was laid off. I'm 31, have been working in Beijing for 5 years, and I'm unmarried and childless. 5 years ago, when I graduated from the Chinese Academy of Sciences, my eyes truly shone with a light. The kind of light that made me feel like I could accomplish anything. But over these 5 years, the light slowly faded. Then, in my 5th year, I was laid off. I spent many days internally devastated, unsure of what to do next. I received 2 job offers, but wasn't satisfied with either, and after rejecting them, I continued to internally despair. Later, I felt I couldn't go on like this, so I bought a ticket back to my hometown, back to that familiar small county.
我被裁员了。
I was laid off. This layoff was really sudden. We had a meeting in the morning, and in the afternoon, they told me to complete the resignation procedures and not to come in tomorrow. Actually, I guessed it, because my 6-month probation period was almost over. In the following months, the company deducted my performance bonus for various reasons, saying I didn't meet the performance standards and actively forced me to leave. I graduated with a regular bachelor's degree in 2020 and came to Shenzhen. My salary gradually increased from $650 to $2,200 a month. I never expected to be laid off before I even turned 30.
硕士毕业的那一年，我
The year I graduated with my master's degree, I never dreamed that 9 years later I would be unable to find a job in a city like Shanghai. From last December to this March, a full 4 months, I submitted nearly 1,000 resumes and went for interviews at companies big and small, but the results were all unsatisfactory. Either the salary was too low, only $400 to $600 to $700 after taxes, which was far below my expectations, or they asked me, can I accept endless overtime? Or will I be insulted by being asked why I'm not staying home to take care of my children after giving birth.
又去面试完了之后呢，
After the interview, they told me to wait for their call, but I never received a call.
后面就再也没有接到这个。
When I went for interviews, I was often surrounded by a bunch of people in their 20s and early 20s, all born in the 2000s.
20岁呀，20几岁的人。
I am feeling like I'm already rejected by society at 30. Of course, the National Bureau of Statistics of China won't give you this impression. On June 22nd of this year, this bureau released unemployment rate data showing that in May, the unemployment rate for the urban labor force excluding students aged 16 to 24 was 15.6%, a decrease of 0.7 percentage points from April, the lowest since June 2025. Du Wen, former deputy director of the Legal Advisory Office of the Legal Affairs Office of Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, went into exile in Belgium in October 2023. This former official claims he has consistently received a series of internal economic research reports, Allegedly compiled by the General Office of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, signed by the Politburo Standing Committee member Cai Qi, and submitted to Xi Jinping. Cai Qi is a close confidant of party leader Xi Jinping, rising rapidly to the core of the CCP's highest power circle. It can be said that in the current CCP leadership, Xi Jinping is first and Cai Qi is second. Cai currently holds key positions, including member of the Politburo Standing Committee, first-ranking member of the Secretariat of the Central Committee, Director of the General Office of the Central Committee, and Secretary of the Working Committee of the Central and State Organs. Du Wen says the reports he received focus on three major areas: investment, exports, and domestic demand, all ultimately pointing to the same core issue, employment. This report not only needs to be understandable to economic experts, but most importantly, it needs to be understandable by party leader Xi Jinping, and Cai Qi has accomplished this task very well.
大家看。
As you can see, investment is a complex issue, but Cai Qi explained it clearly in just a few words. Du Wen cited the report stating that China's new special purpose bond quota reached 4.4 trillion yuan in 2024, but only about 2.35 trillion yuan was actually used for investment and construction, significantly lower than expected. The report points out that investment growth in manufacturing, infrastructure, and other sectors continued to decline, while the proportion of private investment also decreased significantly. He said in the video that private investment used to account for over 70% of total investment at its peak, but now it's only close to 40%. Meanwhile, foreign investment also showed a significant downward trend. The number of large projects with new foreign investment contracts exceeding US $100 million in 2025 decreased by 26.8%, and the contract value decreased by 46.5%. The actual situation in the export sector is surprising.
那么第二个问题呢，接踵而至，出口。
The second question followed immediately, exports. To outsiders, the Chinese economy appears a mess, except for exports, which are remarkably strong, a standout performer. Exports are becoming the most crucial engine of the Chinese economy and the last pillar of the Communist Party regime. Cai Qi said that outside reports claim China's exports to the US have decreased, but exports to the EU, Asian countries, and the Belt and Road countries have increased, resulting in a very rapid overall export growth for the year. However, Cai Qi offered a completely opposite interpretation. Cai Qi told Xi Jinping that taking exports to the US as an example, the US market is China's most important export market, and exports to the US are projected to decline for 9 consecutive months in 2025.
蔡奇说，这比美国公布的。
Cai Qi said that this is actually much more severe than what the US has announced. If our exports decline significantly, we only lose some foreign exchange and tariffs, which is still bearable. The trade deficit will be smaller, and we will earn less. But the bigger problem is that the decline in exports has caused very serious and deep-seated problems. The first is the hollowing out of industry.
首先是产业空心化。
Du Wen cited the report saying that by 2025, about 23% of key foreign trade enterprises have completed the establishment of factories overseas, and another 34% of large enterprises are promoting overseas layout. A large number of enterprises are transferring production lines to Vietnam, Mexico, India, and other places. What is being moved away is often not low-end production capacity, but precisely high-end advanced production capacity. In fact, ordinary Chinese people have long felt the chill brought about by the relocation or closure of Chinese export-oriented factories. Take Foshan City as an example. This has long been one of the most active areas for Taiwanese investment in Guangdong province. Since the first Taiwanese invested enterprise settled in Foshan in 1987, Foshan has approved the establishment of over 1,600 Taiwanese invested enterprises, with a cumulative investment exceeding 6.1 to 6.3 billion. In recent years, Taiwanese businesses have shifted their production capacity to Southeast Asia and other regions, leading to the contraction of some traditional manufacturing industries in Foshan. To be honest, I feel that Foshan's economy is now inferior to that of a fourth-tier city. This year there are fewer customers, not just fewer customers, but fewer people. Huge amounts of housing remain unrented. The streets are deserted, the shopping malls are empty, and the restaurants are empty. Even the vegetable vendors at the farmers' market said there's nobody here now. Where have all the people gone? Foshan is practically deserted. You can hardly see anyone on the streets. The bustling crowds of the past are gone. Many factories can't be rented out. Many large factories have moved away, some to Southeast Asia. Some have moved directly back to their provincial capitals. The pressure in Guangdong is really immense. Brick-and-mortar businesses are finding it increasingly difficult to operate, and they're barely able to pay rent. The two groups with the highest unemployment rates in Foshan right now are those over 35 and those who have graduated but haven't found a job. I've been working in the finance and tax industry in Foshan for about 6 or 7 years. You know, talking about experience with recent graduates while talking about age issues with experienced people is a bit absurd. At this point, many people will start criticizing companies and bosses. Capital is inherently profit-driven. Even if you call them heartless, they won't give you a second glance. But let me tell you, no matter how difficult things are right now, whatever your situation, don't jump to conclusions or act like you're about to die. Things change, and nobody's unlucky forever. Many analysts who follow the Chinese economy believe that among the three major areas of investment, exports and domestic demand is the key to China's economic problems. It seems the CCP also knows this, which is why Cai Qi's report truly focuses on the issue of domestic demand.
第三个问题是内需。
The third issue is domestic demand. This is the most concise and clear discussion of the importance of domestic demand I've ever seen. It's also the clearest official statement I've ever seen from the CCP regarding employment. Previously, I didn't understand that the issue of domestic demand is essentially an employment issue, and many of the terms are new to me.
而且很多词汇我甚至第一次听说。
According to these reports cited by Du Wen, youth unemployment rates in some regions have exceeded 40%, and the national youth unemployment rate has exceeded 20%. Meanwhile, corporate recruitment demand continues to decline. The report shows that recruitment demand in the human resources market decreased by 16.8% year-on-year, with even greater declines in labor-intensive industries such as catering and real estate. Besides university graduates, migrant workers also face enormous pressure. Slowing infrastructure investment and the relocation of foreign trade enterprises have led to a large number of migrant workers returning to their hometowns. The report warns the risk of a large-scale return of migrant workers is increasing. Du Wen stated that the return migration has brought a chain of problems, including a resurgence of poverty, increased petitions, and pressure on grassroots governance. Regarding future trends, Du Wen believes the report's predictions are extremely pessimistic. He argues that the report reflects the Chinese economy having entered a late stage of cancer. Let's switch back to Foshan to compare the situation with the report Du Wen obtained.
兄弟们如果还没来佛山
Brothers, if you haven't come to Foshan yet or are planning to look for work here, I advise you not to come. Unless you have a degree, it's very difficult to find a job you like. The jobs here are mostly food delivery, courier and delivery riders, or waiters and waitresses, or factory work. Food delivery riders need to rent bikes and batteries, which is particularly expensive and exploitative. They work more than 12 hours a day, and the unit prices are extremely low. I've interviewed for almost every job posted on Boss, like HR specialist, subway security guard, auditor, gym apprentice, and marriage counselor assistant. They're all scams. Jobs that are constantly hiring are rarely good jobs.
我发现佛山现在就业环境
I found that the employment environment in Foshan is really not ideal right now. Many people work in the morning and receive news of their teams disbanding in the afternoon. The reason is low economic efficiency and poor performance. I have a friend who worked at this company for a year. The boss was sued for not being able to pay employee wages, and in the end, only 40% was paid, forcing him to return to his hometown. More and more young people are starting to plan to deliver food and packages, and many of them are even women.
现在的佛山大街上
The number of food delivery people on the streets of Foshan is increasing every day. Supermarkets are also experiencing very low foot traffic, with more employees than customers. Restaurant owners are losing everything. Their shops are deserted, with hardly anyone around. Delivery riders and ride-hailing drivers are also overcrowded. The platforms can't even keep up with the job demand. Some people want to quit but are afraid of finding suitable work. Staying means no pay, leaving them in a dilemma. Some have been working since the beginning of the year without any income and are barely surviving. Unable to find work, some have been forced to set up small stalls. The streets are filled with barbecue stalls, fried chicken stalls, and all sorts of other vendors. If Du Wen's report is accurate, it can be said that China is experiencing the most severe economic crisis since the reform and opening up. The current employment crisis is no longer just an economic issue, but is gradually evolving into a political and social stability problem. Because in the eyes of the CCP, unemployment itself is not the problem. The problem is the protest by young and middle-aged people. A video circulating online shows a young man in a public place in China ignoring the pleas of those around him, raising his fist and angrily shouting, "Down with the Communist Party! Down with Xi Jinping!" June 15th, which just passed, was the birthday of Xi Jinping, the leader of the Chinese Communist Party. On June 14th, a netizen from Sichuan commented on Douyin saying, "Tomorrow is my elementary school classmate's birthday. Who dares to celebrate?" As a result, the account was punished by the platform and banned from commenting for 30 days. It's widely believed both domestically and internationally and within Chinese communities that Xi Jinping only has an elementary school education. Thus, elementary school student has become a euphemism for the leader. Zhang Qiyuan, a 15-year-old boy from Hebei province, China, publicly opposed the CCP's authoritarian regime in a live broadcast last June. He called Xi Jinping a dictator who must step down. He was subsequently arrested. He later issued a statement through a Taiwanese internet celebrity, vowing not to commit suicide or compromise. This video proves that I authorized Ba Jiang to broadcast this video on YouTube. On June 16th of this year, Zhe Lijian, an overseas Chinese pro-democracy activist residing in the US, posted the video provided by Zhang Qiyuan on the X platform, hoping everyone would continue to pay attention to Zhang's safety. Since that statement, I was detained for several months at the Six People's Hospital of Hebei Province, and then for another 6 months at Chunyu School in Baoding City. During those 6 months at Chunyu School, a policeman threatened me with a barbed wooden stick. His badge number was FJ0141. Please release this video, Zhe Lijian. Public information shows that the hospital mentioned in the video is Grade 3 Class A psychiatric hospital. Regarding this recent video, Chinese netizens are discussing it heatedly. May the brave Zhang Qiyuan return safely. Justice may be delayed, but it will never be absent. We support your courage to speak out for freedom. The story of young Zhang Qiyuan shows that in recent years, Chinese society is reflecting on Xi Jinping and the CCP system, especially among the younger generation. Economic difficulties have prompted more and more Chinese people to shift their focus from individual leaders to reflecting on the system itself. Society as a whole has become increasingly aware of the problems with the CCP's red system. That's all for today. If you enjoy our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, or share it with a friend. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.